Hey there, and welcome back to the Mythology channel. I am Ramona, and today's Reddit stories are what does it feel like when you encounter a spirit? These are supposed to be personal and true encounters. And here we go, starting with story number one. What do you feel exactly when you feel like you are around a ghost? I have a heavy, dank feeling that crosses my chest like I'm breathing thick air, which others often don't feel when I'm certain we are not alone. What telltale sign do you notice before seeing or feeling a presence? Story 2. I feel different things. I've had the same ghost grab my elbow twice. As she was always coming towards me, it felt like a cloud of cold, cloudy air that sticks to you. When they touch me, they feel like a regular touch, or if they put their whole hand on me, it feels cold. Although I have had a ghost reach behind me and use her hand on me, it more felt like a metal robot hand. Also, a ghost might be around you, and you might not notice anything at all. Story 3. My stepfather passed away years ago. I was sleeping over at my mom's, and I felt something grab my ankle, and the blanket fell to the floor. I don't feel a sense of fear, though, because somehow I knew in my mind that it was just him passing through for a visit. Story 4. I personally don't believe in ghosts, but I believe in spirits that pretend to be ghosts. I feel a presence, and almost like a thickness to the air, bordering on electric, almost buzzing. When they have touched me, it also feels tingly, like a slight electricity. However, I usually see them before I feel them, as a dark, shadowy shape, or it might even be gray, or even clear and barely perceptible, but not all the time. Sometimes I see absolutely nothing. Story 5. I'm guarded. I've practiced protection for well over 20 years, so now when it comes on easily or naturally, they don't come near me enough for me to feel them physically unless I allow it. What I do feel when they are around is an emotional response from them, whether it be delight, anger, confusion, or something else. Story 6. A few times I've encountered negative energy that came into contact with me physically, and it felt like electricity that was heavy and almost like static or resistance, or it was difficult to move away from. Recently, my favorite aunt passed, and several weeks later, I was doing housework, and I had placed some pennies on a metal tray. I was looking right at the tray, which was a solid box right in front of me, and I said to her that I needed a sign that she was with me. And right away, one of the coins started teetering as if it had been lightly spun. It went from nothing to a light spin by itself, and it kept going on for a while. Way too long for the fact that nothing was moving it. No wind, nothing physical touching it, no sound waves could have caused it. I immediately felt peace and put my hand over the penny and smiled. I really felt her that day. Story 7. Most of the time, when I'm not actively seeking spirits out, the first sensation I get is like a tugging at the back of my head. It's usually when I click in and search for what's causing it. Then I usually, not all the time, but most, feel emotions that they are expressing. If it's not bad, depressed, anxiety, or anger, I'll try to communicate, but usually it's almost like they are passing through and I can't get a hold of anything before they are gone. If I'm actively looking for them, it's a lot like what other people have said, a feeling of being watched, emotions I'm not experiencing. Story 8. For the last 6 or 7 months, I have felt something tugging at my shirt, up by my neck. The first time it happened, it wasn't my shirt. I had just sat down on my bed with my cat, and my purse was kind of sitting at my foot, and I felt and saw my purse move as if someone was trying to pull it off of me. My cat freaked out, and then I freaked out. What was most obvious at the time, I didn't do anything else that night. But every day after, several times a day, for months, my shirt would get pulled, and it happened very slowly, like something was taking the cloth between their fingers and pulling it up and back. It's not something I felt. I could see it, and others could see it happening. I don't know why it suddenly started. At first, it made me really uncomfortable and frightened. Then it was just slightly annoying, like a fly that wouldn't stop buzzing in my ear. I usually ignored it, but sometimes I would get irritated and say, "Stop!" in an annoyed tone, and either it did or it didn't. It never escalated, though. I decided to stop watching stuff about ghosts and researching about them and cryptids. I had been immensely interested in them and curious, and I would take night walks sometimes and take random photos. I actually caught a few entities around my house. I put all of that out of my head and focused on other things for a while, and it just gradually stopped. I'm still curious, but I am careful not to allow myself to get carried away, because honestly, it just makes me uncomfortable when I know they're around, both physically and mentally. On a primal and instinctual level, personally, definitely feel as though there's this electricity or static feeling in the air with no coincidence. I feel they have to use electricity to manifest or be seen, heard, or have the ability to touch and move things. The thickness in the air, I definitely feel, as is their physicality, like a slightly electrified, dispersed cloud of humidity that causes your hair to stand on end. When I enhance photos that have entities on them to make them more visible, the cloudy figures look exactly as they feel. Story 9. I have a feeling of being watched. When stuff moves around and you become more aware of its presence, shifting creaks and changes in room temperature, they become more noticeable. Let's say you were in a car accident and hit from behind at a red light. You will always be watching cars from behind you when you are sitting at a red light. Same with spirits. Once you have experienced their existence, you pay more attention to your surroundings. You must be open as well to their energy to receive it, but it can become too much. I lived in a house that had an active spirit, and it was physically and mentally draining. Objects flew off shelves, electrical things would turn off and on, footsteps moving around you at night, doors opening and closing at night. I lost a lot of sleep. I moved to a new house, and the air felt lighter, and the tension was gone. The whole family felt it. Story 10. It sort of feels like someone walks with me. Kind of like when you're walking backwards and you're aware that you turn around, but you know when someone comes near because of caution. I only felt familiar spirits, such as the feeling you get when you're with family, but that doesn't mean I haven't felt a dark presence. Now that's scary because that feels like someone is looking, watching and waiting, an uneasy feeling that sometimes manifests as a shadow and takes the shape of a tall man. Story 11. I think it's up to the ghost or entity that you feel, honestly. Sometimes inside my body I start sensing movement behind me or near me. It's strong and magnetic. I can feel every move they make. The other times I don't feel anything. When they touch you, it feels like electricity tingles. Sometimes they make it extremely cold, and other times they make it extremely hot. Look for paranormal activity in your peripheral vision. Story 12. The air goes quiet, and it feels like it's gotten heavier. I'm a property manager and was asking about an abandoned strip mall with a maintenance guy. At one point, the air seemed to go heavy. My hair is raised up on my arm, and my maintenance guy right next to me says, "So call me crazy, but right where I heard this woman's voice one time, no one was there." He's a 6'3" gruff dude, and he will straighten up, admit that he doesn't like being in that area alone. Story 13. There have been times when I've seen apparitions but haven't felt a thing. Other times I'm aware that I'm in the presence of something that hasn't manifested, but I can feel the energy. I've been in multiple locations where they are inhabited by demons, and let me tell you, that's a shitty feeling. Intense, gut-wrenching feeling of something staring at you, but when you go to look, it just feels like it's staring at you from somewhere else now. It feels like it's constantly right behind you or on the walls. It's heavy and oppressive, like your energy is being condensed into a much smaller version of the room you are currently in. Always out of sight, but never out of mind. Story 14. It feels like someone invisible is literally right behind you, next to you, and around your shoulders, etc. It also feels extremely familiar, similar to the same feeling as someone walking through the door. Everyone else here hits the nail on the head for this one. Story 15. It depends on the situation and the intention behind the energy. Generally, I can sense a kind of static in the space around me, and when an energy field comes close, I can feel its subtle magnetic currents, which everything creates. It feels very tangible, to the point where you can touch it and interact with it. When the energy is benevolent, I often sense a weight descending from above, accompanied by a feeling of unease. On the other hand, if it's a guide or something similar, I experience vibrations, a sense of joy and openness. Their energy also feels physical, and I find myself moving with it as I meditate. Story 16. It depends on the vibe or the intent, but usually I feel a watering behind my eyes and a need to keep alert, along with pressure on my aura. When I think they're more helpful or benign, there's often a feeling of warmth around me and a sense that I am safe, maybe almost a bolstering of my body where I feel more sturdy. Story 17. I'm not sure I've ever had a real encounter with a ghost. I'm planning on going hunting soon, but I have had strange moments where I am terrified for no reason. Sometimes when I wake up in the middle of the night, or maybe I walk into a certain room, it triggers a fight or flight response. Story 18. I feel like I'm swimming through the air, if that makes sense. There's a heaviness, as if I'm being pushed down from above. Story 19. Definitely the feeling of being watched, but also I'm weird. If I feel something in the vibe zone, I start crying without actually crying. Like my eyes water, but I'm not actually crying, if that makes sense. Like tears will roll down, but I'm not in active cry mode. Then I get a weird, uncomfortable electrical tension all over. Story 20. A spot behind both ears, about 3/4 of an inch back and up, tenses up then. I don't know how to describe it. It connects behind my head, like the feeling expanded backwards across the back of my head. So there are some interesting things there. Yeah. I don't quite know what to make of some of that. Maybe you guys do. If you have any thoughts or likes or dislikes, maybe leave a comment down below. And go check out another video or 12. There's a whole bunch here. So anyway, thank you for listening and watching. And we'll talk to you later. Bye.